Hello guys, as requested, I'll show you the type view rendering for this Dustbuster using Photoshop. The workflow is very similar to what we would do in Sketch Pro in the other demo, but we'll show that. So let's start by reviewing our steps. I'm going to turn off probably this vignette I did at the very end, right? I added this color source at the very end. You'll see that the first pass is kind of a little bit of just shading, 1 to 3 shading. I have my kind of rounds, I have white, I have lighter on this side, that side, and so on, right? So if I turn off, you'll be able to see that. I start with a sketch like this that comes from my line work that I do. And then the first step that I would do to this is create a set of contours using black lines. Now in Sketch Pro, I produce them by using steady stroke, but here I could use the pen tool to just create all of this. Now you'll notice if I turn my sketch layer off, you'll see that that black line is mostly for the contour of my objects. And my part line. So basically areas where kind of like my surfaces end and there's nothing behind there, right? Like there would be a different thing, and part lines, that's it. And then I'm gonna add a few white lines to every kind of like corner of the same material that we have with our when kind of like every crease that we have for the objects. And highlights work for kind of like in a similar way, right? Just concentrating that light. Then we shade 1 to 3. We can add elements to do some color. Sometimes my sketch kind of overlay there still works. And in this case, I added a little bit of detail. So let's do it real quick so you can see the process. As always, I'm going to start with bringing my sketch and putting at the top of all my layers, and I'm going to put in multiply so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to work in this layer here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pen tool to identify what are my black lines are going to be. And there we go, and I have my first path, and I'm gonna go to my path and I'm gonna name it so I don't lose it. So we'll call it overall contour, right? And if you wanted to keep, for example, your background in white rather than in gray, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, make a selection, so I'm going to enter. And I'm going to come to my layers, turn that off, and run, and just going to choose a kind of like mid-tone gray and fill my space. All right, so now next step, remember, was adding black lines and white lines to my sketch. I'm going to make this a little bit more transparent here. And now I'm going to do every time where my kind of like object ends and there's space behind it, and part lines. I'm going to do, so I'm going to choose a black tone, and I'm going to use this little button, which is stroke path, but I want to have a brush selected that gives me the right line work that I'm going to have. So in this case, I'm going to want a hard brush with very thin, maybe let's do 3 pixels, let's see how that looks. Stroke, and do that, and stroke. If you want it to be a little bit more detailed, maybe you want to go to 4 pixels, and just see what it does, right? Maybe we can get that, we can get this. If you do it by hand, you could get probably a little bit more line weight difference, but that's up to what you want to do, right? If I wanted to do that, I could kind of like manually paint this as well. That's always another option if you prefer it, right? So I have my black line layers. I also missed this side. So now the next step is the same, but I'm gonna do my white lines like on the other side. So let's call this black lines, and we're gonna work in this new one. That's gonna be white lines. So again, real quick, I can grab my pen tool. So I have my white lines and my black lines. I already start seeing a few elements in volume, right? So now I know that this fillet from kind of like that section line is going to give me kind of like a highlight in my round, right? So I'm going to create another here, highlights. I could also start by darkening this area, right? But let's try like this. So again, like we would do in the Sketchbook Pro or in the workflow we saw last time, I can create just a big brush, kind of like draw what this needs to be, and then create an eraser that's also going to be soft, because in this case, well, this is a soft fillet, right? So now I can mold with that eraser how I want that to be. And remember, we're using the edge of the eraser, right? We're not using the whole thing. Well, first I'm going to get rid of that on that side where I don't want it. I could make a gigantic brush and do very low opacity, and maybe make that be a little bit less intense there. Now let's do the 1, 2, 3 shading real quick. Alright, so I'm gonna merge these two. Maybe still the highlights. I'm gonna create a new layer. That's gonna be called shading. Right, and let's set up our light source. Right, I'm gonna want this side to be number 1, maybe this side to be number 2, and that side to be number 3, right? So I'm gonna create I'm gonna use a big brush. Maybe I can use either a dark gray or just make this a little bit darker. And I can then add a little bit of shading on that side. I can always go to my paths and delete the outside, Shift Command I or Shift Control I to erase that, and then use my soft eraser to make sure that this doesn't go on the face or anywhere that I don't want it to, right? Then maybe you can also know that this is going to be turning around there, so maybe we also want that our edge, well, it shouldn't be as affected as the rest of it, right? And then with my hard eraser, I can get it out of whatever doesn't belong, right? A 1, 2, 3 shading is good. Lastly, what you'll do is choose color blocks. So for example, maybe I can decide that I want, well, this is going to be a gap. Again, you can potentially use your paths. In this case, I'm going to paint them manually. But this is a hole, so that's just going to be black. And then I'm going to use a hard eraser that's in all its power. I'm going to get rid of what I don't want. I can go to levels, right? And in levels I can make the dark darker, and the lights lighter. or I can probably duplicate this layer, so I get a little bit more of my 1, 2, 3 shading probably there. I can also play with this color so it's not so aggressive. Maybe I can desaturate a little bit on that. I can change it to whatever tone I want it to be. I like it there maybe. Let me add a little bit of black. My intake back here. I will like that. And just to finalize, create a vignette. And you have a type B, regardless of what you like. I can play with that. But this is basically the same process that we would do. Now, there is another way that you could do this, which may be a little bit faster. I'm gonna turn off my highlights you want. I'm gonna turn off my 1, 2, 3 shading, right? And I'm gonna make that vignette a little bit simpler. Let me actually erase that. Create another vignette. I'm just gonna create some background in black, just like that. Maybe not completely black or green. Right, so right now it works, but it's kind of like bland, my sketch. Bring it a little bit closer. But maybe something that I could do is do a very basic gradient so that I can start seeing some light. So I'm going to just add a little bit of darkness here and maybe add, and just go back to this space, or paths over contour. Right, so I have some darkness and I can have my darkness kind of like constrained to one side, and then I'll just get another one that maybe I can get a new layer and then make this a little bit brighter, right? And I can then delete this again, and with my I think I'll do it a little bit quick. Right, maybe get a little bit of erasing on that side to make it faster. Sometimes this may be all you need to show a product. Right? The other way of shading is definitely more effective, right? But sometimes this should help. So just to compare, these are the 2 layers I did. That's the layer that I did before, which is a bunch more informative as it is. But up to you, depending on the time that you have, you can try it. There